Good morning, Alex and friends. I'm Grace. Today is Thursday, January 16th, 2025, and you're listening to Alex's News. The weather in Riverside today will reach a mild high of 65.5 degrees, with a low of 45.7 degrees Fahrenheit. Coming up, we'll examine the growing trend of immigrants departing from the United States amid concerns about potential political changes. Then, we'll explore why Los Angeles is experiencing unprecedented fire danger conditions this season. Finally, we'll look at how the space industry landscape is shifting, with Jeff Bezos' New Glenn rocket entering the scene. All this and more coming up on Alex's News. Stay tuned! Our top story this morning focuses on a growing trend of what's being called self-deportation ahead of the upcoming presidential transition. With more on this developing story, we're joined by our political correspondent, Ethan Martinez. Ethan, what can you tell us about this phenomenon?
Thanks, Grace. According to recent reporting from ABC News, we're seeing a concerning pattern of immigrants voluntarily leaving the United States, even those who are here legally, due to fears about potential policy changes under Donald Trump's upcoming presidency.
Can you give us a specific example of someone who's made this decision?
Yes. One particularly striking case reported by the Associated Press involves Michelle Bay Copyright Irios, a 31-year-old Nicaraguan woman. She was legally living in the U.S. under President Biden's humanitarian parole program, but chose to leave for Ireland, where she's now seeking protection.
That's interesting, Ethan. Can you explain what this humanitarian parole program is?
Certainly. Under the Biden administration, about 100,000 Nicaraguans, including Bay Copyright Rios, received 2-year work permits since late 2022. This program provided legal status and work authorization for these individuals.
What's driving these decisions to leave, even for those who are here legally?
According to multiple sources, it's largely fear and uncertainty. In Bay Copyright Rios' case, while working at a California auto repair shop, she experienced increasing discomfort due to growing anti-immigrant sentiment. The Women's Refugee Commission's Melanie Netzer notes that many immigrants with temporary protected status are facing similar concerns.
And how does this connect to Trump's immigration strategy?
Well, Grace, reporting indicates that this concept of self-deportation aligns with Trump's broader immigration strategy. The idea is that creating harsh conditions and uncertainty might encourage voluntary departures, avoiding the complexities of mass deportations.
Thank you for that comprehensive report, Ethan. We'll continue to follow this story as it develops. Our second story tonight focuses on an alarming situation developing in Southern California. Joining us now is our environmental correspondent, Chloe Martinez, with details on the unprecedented dry conditions affecting Los Angeles. Chloe?
Thanks, Grace. The situation in Southern California has scientists deeply concerned, with soil moisture levels that CalMatters reports are at a staggering 2% to 5% of average conditions that experts are describing as literally off the charts.
What's behind these extreme conditions, Chloe?
According to climate data, we're seeing what scientists call weather whiplash. 2 rainy winters that promoted heavy brush growth, followed by almost 8 months without significant rainfall since May 5, 2024. The UCLA Climate Center notes this pattern has only occurred twice before in recorded history, in 1992, 1993, and 1907, 1908.
Can you explain what makes these conditions particularly dangerous?
Certainly. The National Weather Service is reporting red flag conditions across nearly all of Southern California, with wind gusts between 40 to 60 miles per hour and up to 70 miles per hour in mountain areas. But what's really concerning, Grace, is something called the vapor pressure deficit, or VPD. That's essentially the air's ability to dry out vegetation. According to UC Merced climatologist John Abatsoglu, these levels have exceeded all normal parameters.
And I understand there have already been significant impacts?
Yes, tragically so. Multiple fires have already consumed approximately 40,000 acres, resulting in 24 deaths, and thousands of structures have been either damaged or destroyed. Emergency services are overwhelmed, and some areas are experiencing water shortages due to the intense firefighting efforts.
What are experts saying about managing these conditions?
That's the concerning part, Grace. According to the Conservation Biology Institute's Alexandra Seifard, these conditions are beyond what can be controlled through traditional wildland management. A UCLA study from 2021 found that human-caused warming is responsible for nearly 88% of the increasing vapor pressure deficit in the western United States. Experts are now calling for more strategic approaches, including rethinking how we construct residential areas and implementing better wildfire safety planning.
Thank you for that comprehensive report, Chloe. We'll continue to monitor this developing situation. Here are some other headlines. In a concerning demographic shift for Democrats, their stronghold states are experiencing population decline. States like California, Illinois, and New York are projected to lose multiple House seats by 2030, while Republican-leaning Texas and Florida are set to gain 4 seats each. This shift could significantly impact future electoral college outcomes. In Cuba, authorities have begun releasing prisoners following the U.S. announcement to remove the country from its State Sponsors of Terrorism list. The release of 553 prisoners, including some detained during the 2021 protests, comes as part of the Catholic Church's Ordinary Jubilee of 2025, with mediation efforts from Pope Francis playing a key role. A growing bipartisan trend is emerging as both red and blue states move to ban cell phones in schools. At least 8 states, including California, Florida, and Indiana, have enacted measures restricting smartphone use during school hours, with more states considering similar policies. The bans have garnered significant public support, with 68% of U.S. adults favoring restrictions. Nathan Anderson, founder of the influential Hindenburg Research, has announced the firm's closure. The muckraking financial investigation firm, known for exposing corporate fraud, will wind down operations after completing its current cases. Anderson plans to spend 6 months sharing the firm's investigative methods through educational materials. In South Africa, a tragic standoff at the Buffelsfontein gold mine has ended with 87 deaths after police used controversial smoke-them-out tactics against illegal miners. The incident, which involved cutting off food and supplies to nearly 2,000 miners, has sparked outrage and calls for an independent inquiry. Over 240 survivors were rescued and subsequently arrested. And now for our third story of the morning. A major milestone in private space exploration was achieved today as Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin successfully launched its New Glenn rocket into orbit. Joining us with more details is our aerospace correspondent, Ethan Parker. Ethan, tell us about this historic launch.
Thanks, Grace. In what marks a significant achievement for the private space industry, Blue Origin's massive New Glenn rocket lifted off from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station at 203 this morning. According to Blue Origin officials, this makes them the first new space company to reach orbit on their first attempt with a new orbital-class rocket.
Can you tell us more about this rocket and what makes it special?
Certainly. The New Glenn, named after astronaut John Glenn, stands an impressive 320 feet tall. That's about as tall as a 32-story building. According to technical specifications released by Blue Origin, it's powered by 7 BE-4 engines that generate 3.9 million pounds of thrust, and interestingly, it uses liquefied natural gas as fuel, which is relatively uncommon in rocket technology.
I understand there was both success and some setback in this mission?
That's right, Grace. While the primary mission was successful, with the payload, a spacecraft called Blue Ring, reaching its intended orbit, there was one notable disappointment. The company attempted to land the first stage booster, which they'd playfully nicknamed, "So You're Telling Me There's a Chance," on their recovery vessel, Jacqueline, in the Atlantic Ocean. Unfortunately, despite 3 engines relighting to slow its descent, the booster was lost.
What does this mean for Blue Origin's future plans?
According to industry analysts, this successful launch opens up several opportunities. Blue Origin is now positioned to pursue Pentagon certification for national security missions, and they're planning 6 to 8 more New Glenn flights this year. They also have a $3.4 billion NASA contract for lunar surface transportation, and are developing something called the Orbital Reef Space Station.
And when can we expect to see the next launch?
Blue Origin has announced their next New Glenn launch is planned for spring 2025, just a few months from now. The company reports they already have several rockets in production at their facilities.
Thank you for that comprehensive report, Ethan. That's all we have for now. Today's episode was made by Alexander King with Claude Sonnet 3.5, the Perplexity API, and the Google Cloud Text-to-Speech API. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow, Alex.